right, welcome to Let's Talk Real Estate and Stuff. I am here with my partner in crime, Carlos Zamora from Investor Fuse a Carrot, and of course, yours truly, Papa P, coming to you live here. We haven't done a live show in a long time, actually, so it is quite refreshing to be back live. We'll be back live for a while, guys. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Helps us with the channel here, gets the algorithms moving along. Today we're going to talk about some interesting topics. A lot has been happening these past couple weeks, especially with the election year coming up that's affecting real estate. I've already seen every single mortgage broker that I follow on social media start with their TikToks and reels about buying houses quickly because rates are coming down. I've also seen the people that are still saying doomsday as a result of this, that we're not ready. And then, of course, we're going to be discussing our favorite person, John's idol, who he looks up to most, Kamala Harris, and what she's going to be doing for the Democratic Party in banning or attempting to ban corporate iBuyers, private equity, hedge fund iBuyers from purchasing our precious single-family houses. What's going on, bro?
What's up, dude? I'm excited to be back on live here. It'll be fun. Going to Family Mastermind this weekend, which will be fun. I'll definitely bring some conversations and topics there.
Yeah,
big news, everybody.
This week?
Sunday.
You're going Sunday?
Mm-hmm. Are you around or no? Stogie, maybe on the way in? Just lost your audio. But I'll take that as a maybe.
I don't think I'm doing anything on
there we go. You're back.
Is that better?
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to optimize it because I felt like I was getting an echo.
Yeah, but if you're around, I'll hit you up. I'll be
up.
rolling in with your boy Esteban. We're gonna carpool.
Oh, Esteban, where are you going to be at Tampa?
The Grand Hyatt, right in Tampa by the airport. They always do the event there, right by the airport. Easy to get in and out to.
Okay. So,
yeah, man, I'm good. The biggest thing everybody's talking about is the Feds deciding to cut rates pretty 50 basis points. Break this down. Like, I want to just hear a bit, like, what is this? What exactly is it, and what does it mean in general? I want you to break it down for me.
Here's the thing, man, is like, so one, they cut everyone always thinks it has to do directly with mortgage rates, but it doesn't. They don't directly follow it, although it's closely correlated. Usually within a couple points. So what do we go down? Like, so if we're going to be down, before we were at like that 7-ish for mortgage rates, 7.5, and we were at like 5.5 on the Fed funds rate. And now they dropped it 50 basis points, half a point. So I think it's too soon. I think they had to do it. I think it's an election year. You know, what's funny is, like, Donald Trump said it the other day, and he was like, yeah, I'm going to drop rates. Well, they're probably already going to drop rates. That's what they're going to do. But we're going to, because he knew it was coming. Everybody did. They were already pricing in a quarter basis point. Not everyone was pricing in the half a point or the 50 basis points that they did. So that was a little bit of a shock, and the markets did move. I really wasn't expecting a half a point. I was not expecting the 50 basis points. I knew they were going to do it because of the election, and it's just something that, they do going into this. But, like, dude, I just feel right around the time, I don't know about you and, like, what you're feeling on the streets, but I feel like we were finally, like, I'm sorry, let me backtrack. Aside from affordability, aside from consumers and money and groceries and all that, outside of that, I felt in real estate specifically, we were finally settling in. Like, prices were kind of coming down. Like, sellers were getting realistic. You could actually be on the phone relaying to people about how it's not the heyday anymore. Like, reality was finally getting there, and then they go do this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I felt like it's too soon. What do you think?
The people I am speaking to, the industry that we're in, seem to be happy once interest rates come down, more property to move.
Why is that?
Why is what?
Why are they happy?
More houses move. That's better business for them.
I'm assuming you're talking about investors, right?
Yeah. I'm talking about people.
They're happy because the moment you drop interest rates, every single asset, anybody who holds an asset, their price automatically goes up. Because as interest rate goes down, payments go down, affordability goes up, house prices make up the difference. Exactly what happened before, why a lot of people were printing money, because they were buying these houses, and then all of a sudden, and I saw, just to kind of reiterate, so they dropped it a 0.5 point, right? But they're planning on more cuts to where they're trying what I saw on CNBC down into like the 3.75 range.
Wow.
3.5 range, which would put us down potentially at 5 or less.
Return of the Burr.
A sub 5 interest rate on mortgages on 30 years. And it's like, yeah, so of course people like us, like, I'm happy.
Yeah.
It means it's easier to sell one of my parks or assets. And that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the economy, man. Like, people can't afford groceries, right? And you can't even afford to pay credit card. We already went over this on a previous episode about credit card debt and consumer spending and all the issues American families were having. And now you go and real estate was finally settling down. Prices were coming down. Sellers were realistic. I was watching, even in the nice area here I always talk about, I saw price drops. Now that they did this, it's like we're going to go back into it because everybody's going to be jumping on the buying trend. I'm not on the. I think we should have waited.
So overall, you think it's more of a short-term benefit with long-term negative implications?
Yeah, I think it's I think there's two ploys going on here. I think Powell. I think he was forced to do it for two reasons. One, and I know everyone's going to say the executive branch has no control over the federal. Like, I get it. Like, they operate outside of the president per se. He's not giving them direct orders. I understand that. But we all know every election year this type of stuff happens. But two, I'm going to mess this number up, but I'm just going to generalize this. I was watching CNBC this morning, and they were going over why the rate cut was so big. And one of the reasons somebody astutely pointed out was that because the biggest investors, right, the ones who buy all this commercial property, commercial debt has like either 10, 20, some larger trillions of dollars worth of debt coming due in the next year or so. And with interest rates high, we were looking at a potential commercial debacle.
Massive.
Because they wouldn't be able to refinance out of some of their stuff because of where they bought it at. So when you lower these rates that much, it gives you it's juicing the market. So I think it's two parts. I think it has to do with the election. I think it has to do with the big guys.
Well, in the immediate future, I'm happy for hopefully our members moving more deals. Your boy Antoine Martel, big Burr guy, he'll be happy if rates come back down. Will be better for those type of investors as well, but mindful of the longer term implications, or maybe why it was so drastically cut instead of a quarter.
Yeah. I mean, do you feel like how many people have you talked to about actually, so not investors buying houses to flip per se, but like how many people have you talked to that were looking to buy real estate?
Like civilian type people, like looking to buy a house, like a house to move into?
Yeah, civilian type, like that's how we'll categorize them.
It's like The Godfather. Anybody that's not in the industry specifically, I refer to as like
civilians. Like that's
civilian. I mean, I watch. I love PBD, Patrick Bet David. They were talking about a random clip that I saw, and this also correlates with some Jason Hartman type stuff. I'm always super pumped to hear his market updates. They make it seem, I can't say me personally I know of, but they make it seem like right now there's a lot of civilian, like first-time home buyers or people buying a house to move into that are just sitting on the sidelines because they've been thinking that rates are going to come back down. Mortgage interest rates are going to come back down, which it looks like potentially that they are. So I can't say I have a lot of like first friends.
So what does that tell you?
That hopefully there's a backlog of selling properties.
Why would they be waiting? What's the reason?
They think they can get more real estate for their money.
No, we're talking regular buyers, right?
Yeah.
It's more affordable.
They can get more house. They can get more house for the same.
They need the payments to come down. They need the payments to come down to get the house that they want to get.
Or they think that, but also they think like they're not in a need necessarily. At least what I heard from like a portion of those buyers. Sure, like there's a portion of people. It's like, oh, I can only afford X amount, but they're just almost playing like a gamble or timing a stock or whatever. That they just think, man, these rates are more likely to come down than they are to stay the same or go up. So yes, you're right, but I would say more so that's kind of what I've been seeing and thinking or hearing.
So that logic is what a lot of people push, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you have a lot of people who say, I'm just going to wait. And then you have the people that say, date the house, or what is it? Marry the house, date the rate, or whatever. Right. The fact of the matter is if you could afford the payment right now, and you could get a house, and you actually have the affordability and the income to do that, if you bought it at this interest rate and rates go down 0.5 point to a point, your equity skyrockets.
Mm-hmm.
You can then refinance out, either get cash or have a lower payment at a lower rate, but have instant equity and increase. It makes zero sense. I think a lot of people were waiting because the other way to do this, Carlos, is instead of lowering rates, you continue to wait and prices continue to come down, and then people can once again afford the houses. But the second you lower rates, house prices are going back up. If we get sub 5, it's going to be chaos again.
And who's going to be buying those deals? Because this kind of ties in somewhat to iBuyer type or
no. I think it's just going to be people, but I think long before people are buying houses, I still think we have a lot of other issues with our economy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know. I think the interest rate thing, I get it though. I mean, there's so many, like we all focus on, when we look at interest rates because of our industry, we all focus on the residential home buyer. I get it. Cause that's our industry. There's so many other things in play with that rate that is based off of that interest rate. So like we are a very small part, like our industry, not just investing, but just residential is such a small player in like the rationale behind that interest rate.
What's like the layers of the onion? So it's like residential, then
you have, everything is based off of it because that's the money that they're lending out to the institutions.
So where does it go? Commercial, affordable housing, other stuff?
Right. It's not just real estate, though, is what I'm trying to say. Money is borrowed for just business in general.
Like, what's the ripple effects? Like, where else does it where else does it ripple out to?
Business, regular personal loans, car loans. It's everything. And we tend to focus. Go ahead.
I was going to say we're about to have a shakeup then.
Yeah,
because everybody was expecting a rate cut mainly for the election year to make it seem like
0.25.
That's the general consensus. Is everybody was expecting. We were coming into this week thinking there was going to be a rate cut.
So
potentially not as aggressive.
100% agree with you. Mm-hmm. And listen, if you were to tell me, so I know Trump was promising rate cuts too, and I was not happy about it, unless what I did like about what Trump was saying is he had a plan in saying, I'm going to boost this effing economy and I'm lowering rates. Okay, well, Carlos, if you were telling me we did a 0.5 basis point and you got no credit card debt and I got no credit card debt and my groceries back down 50% of what it was, and sure, house prices are going to go up, whatever, like I get it. Mortgages are cheaper, more buyers, but I'm making more money. I have more money saved. That's all fine. I'm okay with it. But we added a piece to the puzzle without all the other pieces. That's all I'm trying to say is it's a multi-balancing act, and they're only playing with one part of the scale, I guess. And the thing is when you do that, people are still hurting. So you making houses more expensive doesn't solve our housing issue. Just because rates go down doesn't mean I can afford that house anymore. Yeah, my payment's going to be lower, but it's made up if the house goes up $50,000 like it did back in 2022.
Papa P, you're a man of the people, because what's come up in thought for me, my initial reaction, a lot of people in our industry are happy just because they think more property, more houses are going to sell, where you're more concerned about the greater good of the economy, the country.
It's not just that, it's cars too. So the car prices have drastically increased. So finally, over the last couple of years, not last couple of years, over the last year, like for the last, what are we, trailing 10 months, the truck industry has started to really decline. More trucks sitting. So truck prices, when you would go to the lot, like I follow a lot of people who go to lots and I love watching price changes and like they're tracking prices. And like, I would start to see these guys, they're going back month after month, and you start to see these same trucks dropping $5,000. Then it's down 10 grand. Now the MSRP is like 15 grand off. It's still a 2023 model. They haven't moved, and they're basically trying to give this thing away because rates. So that's the same thing that's happening in the car market is happening in the house market, or was. We were finally starting to get back to reality. So the biggest complaint Americans have is everything's so expensive. So although half of the side is excited, I'll say 75% of the world is excited about the rate cut because they're either investors, 50% of them are investors, the other ones are consumers, right? You have the people who make the money and the people who spend the money. This half, of course, is happy because asset values are going way up. This half of them are just fucking stupid and they're happy. The other 25% are like, oh shit, this isn't good. I still don't have any money and I still am only getting like 30 hours a week. And this immigrant just took my effing job and I can't work. Because this also correlates to the simple fact that American citizens' jobs went down while immigration non-citizens' jobs skyrocketed over the past. And it's like, so we have that aspect of it. So yeah, it's not that I'm a man of the people. It's just I was finally like, it's not about the people, it's about the country. And we were finally like breathing again, I guess. I feel like during like 2020, 2021-ish, 2020, like at the tail end of Trump's thing and all the way through to today, like there was no breathing room. You were either in straight like euphoria of like, gotta make money, this is so easy, everything's selling at any price I say, cars, houses, groceries, like everything. You want to sell it like someone's watches. You couldn't even buy stuff. It wasn't in stock. Or the complete opposite. Like it was just like, I got no money. Everything's so expensive. I can't afford this. I'm losing my house. I have to sell my car. I have to get rid of my vacation home or like whatever. And finally, we started to see breathing room this year. But it also happened to be an election year.
So how long will it take to bounce back?
I have no idea.
We'll get back to normalcy. Is that like a year thing, 2-year thing? Nobody has any idea?
It depends on what they do, man. It depends on what they do with the policies. Who's going to win?
Yeah.
I mean, let's be real. If Kamala Harris wins, we're all screwed.
Well, what's your girl up to? Because that's what the title and the focus of the episode. Talk to me on that. Help me understand.
So in her first 100 days, so not only, in her first 100 days, she plans. So there's a couple bills that have been passed. Like, so there's a bill in California. There's one written by Democratic senators out of Ohio. There's also one in Nebraska and in Oregon and Washington. Like they're all over. They're all trying to get their bills passed to ban corporate house buyers. Now, within her first 100 days, she has a plan, a policy, and all this stuff. And one of the things she said she would do is for those guys in Ohio who wrote their plan, she would enact it. And she would get that passed. So the problem is a lot of the stuff that goes inside of it. So how you qualify who is a corporate home buyer. And in this case, it'd be anybody who owns 50 or more homes, essentially. And there's like multiple other bills with different measurements. Some measure it at 1,000, some at 100. Specifically, what I read is that it was at 50 for this. And you get penalized. You can't take deductions off of your taxes. You can't take deductions off of like depreciation doesn't count anymore. Like there's no such thing. They're not giving you any tax benefits.
That'd be pretty massive. So many people buy real estate for taxes and other benefits.
Well, yes. And that's the thing. So there's 90 million houses, right? 90 million houses. Out of those 90 million houses, right? Only a portion of those are like rentals. So there's approximately like 15 million single family rentals in the market at any given time. Of that amount, how much do you think actual corporate Wall Street, what you and I think of when we say that, not me or, you know, your friend over there, you or anybody, it's like, how much do you think Blackstone, those types of American homes for rent, how much do you think they own?
Isn't it single-digit percent?
What do you think? Pick a number.
5%.
Million houses, 2 million, 100,000, 50,000?
5%, 5% of 90. So whatever that is.
No, they own 3% of 15 million. They own 574,000 houses.
So like a percent.
Yeah, well, of the 90 million, right? Like it's extremely small. Now you have so of that 15, then you have like another, I'm gonna mess this number up. Another like 20 million, I think, of just multifamily in general. And then the rest are obviously available. They're homeowners, home occupants, all that, who make up the other portion up to 90 million. But I mean, when you're sitting here saying, dude, like these guys are only buying 575,000 houses and there's like 15 million rentals, who makes up the rest? People like me, people like you. And like, you're going to kill that. So then they started putting like restrictions on it, saying you have to own 1,000 houses or 50. And like one of the bills even gets down specifically, like, you know how we were joking in our pre-show when I said we should talk about this, was like, could I buy your LLC or like a share in your LLC to bypass this? No. And they even wrote it in, you can't buy any interest in anything relating to those houses.
Mm-hmm. For someone that's supporting this, what's like the idea behind that? The thought is like it's going to stop like monopolies, like monopoly type buyers, and I don't even know what the benefit is.
It's the villain story, bro. Who are you going to point the big bad finger at for all the problems in our economy? Listen, it goes back. I know I went on a rant. The problem they're trying to solve of houses not being available is a result of the money printing that happened post-COVID in the lower interest rates that caused a frenzy of people buying, right? It wasn't just hedge funds. They didn't really affect our market, but people want to know why there's no houses for sale. And they're like, where are they all? What's the easiest blame? Well, it's them. It's the big rich guys. Mm-hmm. It's the big rich guys. And so that's the thing. So they use statistics. And they mess with statistics to make it look like that. So when you say, what is the reason for believing it? They believe it for the very reasons it's not. They believe it because you can manipulate a stat very easily. When it's one thing to say, well, you pick a market and you say in Atlanta, hedge funds bought, or investors, corporate investors bought 20% of the available housing supply that was for sale, which is true. Kinda. They included flippers, mom and dad, they convert, you know what I mean? And they included Blackstone. But when you read that, all you see is corporate buyers. And you're like, ha, 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 let's stop them. So they use the semantics of the language to get you to say, I support this. But the reality is it doesn't really, it's not going to do anything. They own a very small portion. So like there's a part of this bill that is requiring them to offload all of their houses. And some of them, like, because California actually passed one.
If you're above 50, if you're 50 or more doors, you have to unload.
Yeah. So hang on. It was like,
I mean, that we know. I mean, we know people. I mean, you're in that space. I mean, that's a pretty significant thing. I know Pace has been posting about like the corporate gains.
Yeah, Pace would probably qualify.
Unrealized corporate gains. Oh, he 1,000,000% would.
California is the worst. California is pretty much saying like you have to unload these things and you can't sell them to anybody but a regular home buyer. You have
is it state by state though, or is it going to be a federal thing?
So Kamala wants to make it federal, but like right now, California is the only one actually really attacking this and actually had it passed from what I researched. So again, like Nebraska, Washington, Oregon, like they're all trying, but California had AB, what is it? AB, it's like Bill AB 284. They actually had it pass the state assembly and it's now in the Senate for final approval. And like, that's wild, man. They want to make you sell. And then the other thing where it goes to is like, they're making you offload everything by 2030, I think. They set a timeline on it. So it's like sometime under 10 years, they want all of your properties sold.
Getting under 50 doors?
Essentially, I guess you could say that, but yeah.
That's pretty crazy. That's not very American. Just from like a rights perspective.
Yeah.
Or you could hold them and you get taxed a crazy amount, or
when I'm talking to you, like there are so many bills from different senators that are trying to introduce this, and each one has different caveats. So like specifically California is a little different than the other ones, but generally, yeah, they want to penalize. So like the one bill said that they would allow the attorney general, basically, I think of California, he would be able to prosecute you civilly. And I think it's about a $10,000 infraction, or was it $100,000? I think it might have been $100K. Yeah, $100K per violation. So basically, if you buy a house or do something or don't meet your quota of selling it or whatever, they're allowed to prosecute you civilly to go after you. The whole thing is they're trying to get the houses to go back on the market. But here's the thing. Now, who sets the price for that house?
If the person owns it, they get to, but the market will dictate it, which is dictated by where rates are at.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like this shit, it doesn't make sense, bro. And the fact of the matter is, so go back and answer your question. Why is this happening this way?
What's the benefit of it? I guess more inventory, forced inventory for the consumer, of the investor consumer.
Well, more inventory. And so that's the lie they say. So one of the things they do is the fear, and they say by 2030, they estimate that hedge funds or corporate buyers will own 40% of available housing. That's wild to think that. That is approximately 38 million. So I worked it two ways. Let's just say hypothetically, they're saying not just corporate, they're once again grouping everything in. Now wrap your head around this. Let's pretend they're grouping it all in, and they're not actually just saying Wall Street that owns 575K. Let's say they're talking about the 15 million owned by me and you and everybody else that are real estate professionals. If they think we're going to go from that point to 40%, that means we're going to have to buy another like 18,000 houses, probably more, right? To get up to that 38, the 40% of 90. Bro, I did the math. I was just thinking it didn't make sense. That's the average house price. The average house price of 250K, which, let's be honest, over the years, that's just going to go up. I was being very generous because I was reading that median house prices are like at 400K right now. I said 250. At 250, $4.5 trillion would have to be pumped into hedge funds in order to buy this fear-mongering amount of houses. And that's, again, assuming they're starting at the 15 from you and me. But remember, hedge funds only own 575K. So if they really think they're going to go from 575 all the way up to 30-some million houses, that's bananas. But when they say that to you in a headline, you get behind it. And you're like, I don't want that to happen. That's scary. So.
Well, that rhetoric's been kind of going on even before this of, is it ethical? Like I remember even on Steve Trang's, when they did I don't know if they even still do the show, Pardon the Disruption, but it was like, how ethical should wholesalers feel, the ones that primarily sell all their deals to hedge funds? This is a couple of years ago. And that's what some people said. They're like, even if I sell all my deals to hedge funds, they still own such a small percentage. Like it's not like a Renters America just because of hedge funds owning single family.
So let's talk about it.
Houses in their portfolio. Do you remember what I'm talking about though?
I do. Let's talk about, so here's the argument. Why would you, so if they don't sell to hedge funds, they would sell to me, right? Someone's got to buy it. So they have three choices: hedge funds, Brandon, or mom and dad. Okay. Let's be real. Mom and dad, some of these houses, they're not in the right. It's going to be a little difficult to buy it at a certain price in the time frame that everybody wants. So let's just say, for the sake of this argument, for these use cases of sellers selling to us, it's not like they're selling to us when they don't have to. They come to us for a reason. And usually for that reason, we have to go with investors. So it's either hedge funds or Brandon. Mom and pop are probably out of this unless it's an ovation, which would then cancel out the point you're trying to make. So if that's the case, and I only have two buyers, who do you think is going to be better? Like the guy who's buying his second, third rental property, or maybe his seventh, eighth, and he's living off those funds, or like he has them spread across his local town. He's a pretty big dude. You know what I mean? Like he's got some properties, 5 or 6 of them that he collects, or the hedge fund. So there's a lot of arguments to this because, and personally, I'm starting to see it in mobile home parks. It's like I took over the park that I bought from 2 brothers who had no business running it, and they ran it into the ground, didn't repair things, literal duct tape, taping pipes. They funneled the money out. I mean, it's their money, but they basically never reinvested into it. And it was just tenants, squalor, health concerns, just bad. Somebody like me comes in. Now I'm a corporate guy, right? I come in, I raise the funds, I have money, I have a business plan. You call me, I have teams and vendors, I have customer service. I get your problems taken care of, right? I have money to put into it. That's what all that money does. So who's really better? Now, one of the arguments the left makes is then that, well, you may be a corporate guy, but when you do that, you're going to jack all the prices up to an unrealistic rate. Mom down the road who's renting out her old home, right, or her second investment property is going to be more empathetic and generous on the rent, and she's not going to use this software that maxes out rent prices, right? So people say so there's those 2 sides of the argument, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. And who do you think is really better when you say selling to a hedge fund, I should feel bad, or should I say, well, someone's going to rent it? Would I rather have the guy who like is working a job and doesn't have time to take care of it and probably can't really afford to fix the roof because he's only making $200 a month cash flow, or the company that has deep pockets and when something happens, they can fix it?
Interesting to think about.
I mean, what would you
think about for sure?
Who do you rent from? Who do you rent from now in your apartment?
Just a private owner.
Private owner? How do you feel about that?
Maintenance isn't as good. Get it cheaper though. So that's kind of like because I negotiate straight with her versus a management company. So that really encapsulated. You may be getting a better rate or cheaper, but it's not the same level of maintenance or updates, upgrades, things like that.
I agree with that statement. I feel like that's I think majority of people would probably agree with you on how you feel about like renting. Like, yeah, you're going to get a little cheaper rent. And that's the other thing I read, and I don't know how true it is, but they were like, they're trying to ban some national, I forget the name, national rent setting software that allows people to see what everyone's like setting rents at so you can max it out, and they want to ban that. I don't know if that's true or not, but I read that and I couldn't find any correlating info, and I didn't have any time, and I was just like, this is interesting. But
it is
like, I don't know, man. It's like things cost money.
I almost see it not even from the renter's perspective, but like from the American dream owning a house perspective is what the ethics came up when I was talking about like Steve Trang show and stuff like that, where it's like this is like in the future, if it trends this way, this is a couple years ago what they're saying, if wholesalers are selling all their deals to hedge funds and they rent to everybody, it's going to be less and less inventory available for a first-time home buyer and get away from like the American dream, which a lot of people on both sides are talking about politically for this election as well. They're like, vote this way if you want to get back to the American dream of owning a home. Vote this way if you want to get back to the American dream of owning a home. You know what I mean?
But let's say 20%, 90 million, 15 million. Let's just say 20% of houses, right? Let's even say like 30% of all houses are rentals. That still leaves 70%. And let's be honest, right now, people can't afford to buy their house. Although I don't agree with everything Grant Cardone says, as a homeowner and someone who's rented, I do not believe owning a home is the best choice. I think unless you have and he gets a lot of flack because then he bought a bunch of houses. I think there's a time and a place to buy a house. I think for the majority of people, they don't plan on how much work goes into owning a home. And what happens when obviously we're in the business of buying dilapidated homes, distressed homes. People don't pay for their taxes or take care of their roofs. But like, dude, there's nothing wrong with renting. Like, I think we should buy houses for the American dream, but I think where our economy is at, housing is a symptom. It's not the disease. And everyone focuses, like in the true doctor and pharmaceutical world that we live in right now, everyone wants to treat the symptom, but they don't treat the disease. And I think housing and this whole argument of, oh, I'm not going to own a home. Well, bro, no offense, but you can't even buy groceries. Trucks are $100,000. An entry-level car is like 50. Like, you can't even get health care. You know what I mean? Like, gas is expensive. Like, explain to me how you're affording a home when you have like 50K in credit card debt. You have all of this like student loan debt. Explain to me why you think you deserve to own a home. And so I think people equate these things without understanding, well, first, before I can own a home, like, I need the economy to be better. I need to make money. I don't know. Like, for you, let's talk about you. You don't own a home. Do you want to buy a home?
Eventually.
What kind of metrics are you going to set for yourself before you buy one?
A base layer of feeling comfortable with whatever it is, the monthly payment and the down payment.
Okay, well, let's not talk about the house. Let's just talk about you and your financial situation, job situation, mental situation, spiritual, whatever it is, right? Where do you feel you would want to be when you buy this house? Like, name some numbers, some timelines. Like, what are you thinking in your head when you imagine this house?
Let me pull up Zillow. Let me pull up the other screen here and look at some. Let me see if I can find it fast. We've pulled it up in Southwest ranches before.
No. But hang on. I don't want to talk about the house. I want to talk about you. So how much money do you want to have saved?
Well, it would depend on the house.
Huh?
It would depend on the house for down payment. Because you need to know how much down payment you'd be putting in for a house. $1 million house versus a $5 million house would be different down payments. So I would say, I don't know numbers off the top of my head, but let's say $1 million house for round numbers. What would a typical payment down be? 20%?
How much money would you want to make before you're ready to buy a house?
I'd have to crunch some numbers in my head. Probably 5x whatever the mortgage payment would be.
See, so this is my problem.
I don't know. I'm not. I haven't been in a house buying mode to like think of it.
Because everybody thinks about the house and the payment, which is why we're in this mess. Most people, and so they're working backwards, in my opinion. And it's like, well, I only want to make enough money to buy this house. I only want to make sure, I'm making, so when I'm ready is going to be when that house of my dreams or whatever I want, I'm making 5 times that. Instead, how our parents did it, they didn't do it that way. They had a nest egg. They saved up money. They had solid jobs and they set goals for themselves. And then they said, now that I have all this, what can I afford? Yes or no? We go the opposite. We say, I want to buy something. How much money do I have to spend on this that I want? Well, I'm making this, so I'll just buy this. It's a reverse logic thinking, which is why we're a debtor nation.
Instead of having that saved up, I guess, but it's still, you still are looking at the monthly payment stuff. Like you can have
X. But if you said to yourself, I would want
to have X saved up. Yeah, X saved up and then X for a down payment.
Yeah, right.
And then also making X of whatever the monthly mortgage payment is.
So let's just say this. I want to have a stable job I've been at for 3-4 years, 5 years, right? We'll just round 5 years. I want to have $50,000 in the bank. I want to have, I'm making these numbers up, I guess. I was going to say 100, but that's like nothing nowadays. But I want to have $150,000 salary. I want to be dating somebody or engaged. I want to be ready to have kids and I want to be settled into an area. That's the normal when we talk about the American dream, that's how the American dream was built. But that's not how people think. They don't think about how they're set up. They say, you know what? I am told buying a home is the American dream. How much money do I have to go buy this? That's what I'm trying to say. And so that's where I think the disease is. I think the disease has to do with overspending in our government and overspending with our consumer, which is why we're in debt in the government. And Like, I forget the stats, but what, like 80, 90 some percent of Americans are wildly in debt, where majority of people can't afford a bill over $400, and they would go bankrupt if it was 1,000 or more. And yet everyone's complaining about being able to afford a house, which is blowing my mind.
Gotcha. So you're speaking to that 80, 90% of people that have debt or are in debt.
Yeah, it's like, so why don't you go rent, right? Go rent, save up money, get solid in your financial situation. That's what like my parents did. They rented, you know, they got married, they rented. My dad got a job. He worked there for a while. They felt good. He got relocated. My parents are the epitome of the American dream. And it's like, and then guess what? They, after having all that in a nest egg, it's like, okay, what can we go buy now? We're now ready for this house. They didn't do it before. They did it after they built it. We're a step ahead, which is why you see all these memes of like, oh, my boomer dad saying how he bought this house at $1 and they're now selling it. Yeah, but they were built different.
They were. Times were different though too.
Like, say it again.
Times were different too. Like that is kind of the American way. Maybe not the American dream, but that's the American way right now.
Obviously, people can refute everything I said with like, they're going to talk about, well, the income ratio to the house ratio is different. I get all that. But I'm talking about how they were built, bro. The way they thought, why they were able to afford that 3-bedroom, 2-bath house on one salary, like how the wife clipped coupons, how they didn't use credit cards, how they never threw anything out and ate all their leftovers and never wasted food. Like, we're not like that. And yet we're worried about being able to afford a little cookie cutter McMansion and worried about the hedge funds buying it when we can't even afford the bill to replace the roof. We like, that's what's wild. My parents had to do it. They paid for it. Our generation has to do it. Hey, do you guys take payments? Do you have like, you know, I forget that company that does it, like a Vigo. What is that? Where like, if you want to buy like a couch or something, it's like this little side button you could click to buy whatever it is.
I know, Alliant, something like that.
Something like that. Like, that's how we look. Our parents would have never done that. They just would have went without. But we have to have stuff. Like, we have to have this house. I don't feel like we have to have houses. I feel like renting is fine. I feel like you rent until you can afford. But
I'm with you.
So, Carlos, I say you set yourself some goals, bro, and you're just like, I want to have like $100K, or I don't know how much you have, $500,000 saved up. I want to have stocks, and I want crypto, or I want a car, or I want a wife. And when I'm doing that, then I'll be ready to see what house I can afford. But until that, I'm not ready to own a home. And that's where I feel like people need to have that conversation with themselves.
Definitely. Yeah, I think for me personally, I enjoy being smack dab in the middle of the city and walking everywhere. But it is good to have those thoughts and goals and at least ideas, some
So what happens when you get married?
Then you start hyper focusing on that stuff, or it ramps up that time.
You gonna have kids?
I don't know. See what the universe has in store.
Well, what if the universe says you just popped out 2 of them? You still living in the inner city, Miami? Or
you could. You could. This is a pretty family friendly environment here.
So you would do condo lifestyle?
Probably to start off. If it was like right this second, yeah.
Yeah.
Southwest.
There you go.
Somewhere off the crib. Somewhere off the grid.
And then you would go to, would you move out of Miami, or would you go to like Southwest ranches?
Maybe Miami Shores is somewhere like 15, 20 minutes north of here. That's a good little neighborhood. But I think anywhere like here up to like West Palm, anywhere along this coast is good. As long as it's warm, I like it. I would be off the grid. I could see myself be more off the grid though, like more in like a neighborhood suburb area.
Oh, when you said off the grid, I thought we were talking about like the fucking Everglades.
No, off the grid compared to like being downtown Miami.
Yeah.
That'd be like Southwest ranches.
And
I still need to drive, really. That's really the what I really need to go do is just go drive through all those areas, go see some open houses and stuff.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I know someone who bought, like, it's just him and his wife, and how they bought like this gigantic fucking house. Just fucking huge. Spent so much money on it. And I talked to him and he was having problems with this issue with the house and this. And it's just like, I didn't say it. Like, I wasn't going to be I was just thinking, well, dude, like, you bought a big ass house, you're gonna have some big ass fucking problems. Like, and so the money that you dump into these things and you buy a 4,000 square foot house, like, you know, I remember I foreclosed on a guy for one of the banks up in Windermere in I can't think of the name. Anyway, it was a very high end neighborhood. A lot of athletes lived there. This guy was a well-known doctor. Huh?
Where's Windermere?
Windermere is just north of Disney. It's Orlando, but not Orlando. But it's kind of like right above. It's a very wealthy section of Orlando proper, kind of. But anyway, a lot of famous people go there, high-end homes. This guy was a well-known doctor getting foreclosed on. And I still remember this. And like the house was beautiful. It had everything you could ever want in his. He was Indian, so he had like this style. It was kind of like, I don't know, dude. It was like a Taj Mahal, kind of like Art Deco style type thing. Gorgeous for what it was. But dude, he had misters and sound systems and automated. This was back in like 2000 and whatever, 13, 14. Automators and automated screens, flat screen here, TV drop down here, fireplace. Yeah, it was every single thing you could possibly want in a home this guy had. And I was like, and we were signing paperwork where I was giving him like $50K to hand over the keys. It's called cash for keys. And I just like, hey man, like, let me ask you, like, did you really love living here or something? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, do you regret anything? Like, I mean, it's a really nice house that you have to give up. Like, and I was young. And he just said, Brandon, he's like, only thing I would say is I would never do it again. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, the problem with a house like this is he's like, something breaks. He goes, one of my misters broke and it cost me 20 grand. He's like, I forget. It was like this door I had to fly in. It was like $75,000 to fly this door in. And he's like, you know, my pool broke down and I spent almost 50 grand on that. And it's like, he's like, my generator doesn't work because it's going to cost this much. And he's giving me this list of things with this big house that he thought the big house was great. And he made a shit ton of money. Eventually, he just gave up on it. And he said he got a house out in San Diego that was small, and that's where they were moving to. And he didn't really give a shit. He was like, take it. He got $50K for handing over the keys to this $1 million at the time when the market was crap. I'm sure it's like a $5 or $8 million house now. But at the time, it was like 1.5. I think I sold it for like 1.6 or 1.7, something like that. I forget, but that's the advice I think of. Like that guy, crazy. Just like, dude, bigger house, bigger problems.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. It's gonna be interesting times, man, to see. I mean, we're gonna be. I feel like something every week is crazy going to be happening. The last 45, 60 days. How many? September? Less than 2 months. So 45 days until the election.
Try to assassinate Trump, dude.
I got to be careful golfing up in West Palm. I'll tell you that. I was golfing up in West Palm a couple weekends ago. You saw. Gotta be careful.
No, I asked John the other day where he was. I was like, where were you, dude?
It's crazy, man. But yeah, gotta stay safe. Just with people out there with business moves, personal moves, everything.
I mean, dude, you're living in. I mean, we're in Florida, so it's like we already know how this state's turning out. So it's like, whatever. It's a red state. God bless Florida. Like, I was thinking about it in the gym, and I was thinking about, like, I know it's a wild thought, but I was like, man, if what I think could happen does happen, I was like, would we start to see a civil war? And my only thought, or like, because I do think Kamala Harris, I think she's a socialist, 100%. I mean, if you listen to her words, I think it's just one more step in a plan for socialism. Marxism eventually turns into communism as the attempt. I definitely think her agenda, or who's ever controlling her agenda, is the lack of sovereignty. Anyway, all I kept thinking, and I don't know if you feel this way, I was like, God bless Florida. Because I feel like every other state other than Florida and Texas would probably be fucked. But we would just throw up the middle finger and just be like, we're our own country now. You don't like, I could see, what is it, Governor Abbott and like DeSantis just being like, hey, you want to do this together? And then being like, no, let's do this.
Yeah.
And then they go up to Georgia in like Alabama, Louisiana, like, hey guys, listen, like we need to connect Texas and Florida, like, or not even Georgia, because we don't know about them because of the last election, but we go to like Alabama, Louisiana, and be like, hey, we need to connect us. Do you want in on this? And so I'm grateful that I live in this state, because I think if the worst does happen, I feel like we would actually just, Trump would be our president at a Mar-a-Lago. That'd be the new White House.
That's hilarious.
What if that actually happened? What if it happened where we succeeded? I'm making this up now, but it's like we succeeded. Mar-a-Lago becomes the new White House.
That's hilarious.
We just let Trump on our own, and it's just like DeSantis becomes the instant VP because he's the governor, and it's just like we become our own little country. And it's funny because like we would have the National Guard, we would take over in our state, so we'd have military. We already have bases. We would take over all of the equipment and ammunition we already have. Like, we already have shipping ports. We would control the Gulf of Mexico. Like, we would literally control the Gulf. We would have an entire ocean.
That's hilarious.
So anyway,
Trump being president out of Mar-a-Lago, Florida.
When I think about bad things that can happen, I'm like, I'm good with it, because if it does happen, like, Florida, bro.
You're grateful.
Florida.
There's always the bigger picture. There's always stuff to be grateful for, especially us healthy, alive. Always something to be grateful for, and that's what you should focus on.
I mean, I don't know. I saw polls. I don't know if you've seen the recent polls.
Mm-mm.
You see, but like, so
Kamala
this guy broke down. He had the polls, and he also had 2020, and he was going through like they're purporting Kamala. So some polls are saying Trump's blowing it out of the water, but what he was doing is specifically
winning.
Comparing, huh?
Winning?
Yeah, winning, like winning. But this guy was saying Kamala. So some are like, Trump's doing so good, like, bro, it's unbelievable. And I believe that too, but obviously there's probably some skewed going on there. But what he did is he took the same pollsters from 2020 and the same ones in 2024, and he looked at the difference of points between Biden and Trump and Kamala and Trump in certain swing states for the delegates. And it's awesome because it's like Biden was leading Trump, and I'm making this up just for the sake of this, but it was like Biden's leading Trump in this state 7 points. And you go to today and Kamala's only beating him by 1 point. You know, and he did that in each state. And then he said, now let me show you where Trump finished. Where Biden was 7 points ahead, Trump only lost by 1 point. So there was a 6-point miscalculation in that poll. So if you look at these and saying Kamala's only up by 1 and you use that same deviation.
Sure.
So he was comparing. I thought that was interesting, but then I was like, well, what are they going to do to stop that?
It's going to be a crazy ride the last 2 months here, a month and a half.
Well, did you see Elon Musk is making him a bulletproof Tesla golf cart?
No, that's sick, though.
You got to go on his Twitter. He's like,
send it to me.
President
Trump. Link me that.
It's legit looking, but he's putting bulletproof glass on it, and Trump can ride around in his golf cart. And just
I want one of those.
I'm hoping it's not AI and like Elon's not faking this out, because that would be so epic.
I want one of those. That'd be sick.
Yeah, it looked pretty sweet, but he needs to stay in a bubble, and not leave anywhere and just Zoom call all of his rallies. But he won't do it.
No, he won't. That'd be hilarious.
Zoom call in.
Well, Papa P, this has been good. This has been good global and micro rhetoric here on stuff that's going on. Appreciate you, man. We'll have to stay safe out there. A long time Florida man. I'm a new Florida man.
Yeah, but you're one of us.
Florida man. Yeah.
I mean, so when we succeed from the United States, like you're either in for the ride or you got to run up to Georgia real quick.
Nah, it's too warm. It's too warm here. I'm staying down here.
I know.
I'm not made
chilly though. I woke up this morning and it was a little brisk.
It stays warm here. This is like the warmest part of Florida, which I like.
No. I can't wait for the weather to turn. But you're right. We got 60 days, man. There's a lot that's going to happen with the interest rates and the market. I mean, you know, we'll see. I mean, it's a good thing. On my investor side, I went on a rant, but on my investor side, like, I mean, obviously I'm buying a mobile home park, so like my debt's going to be cheaper. It changes all my figures. Like, you know, it's going to be awesome. But
it's good. maximize for yourself, guys, in the short term, ethically, of course, but max out your business going to run here at the end of the year.
Yeah, let's see what happens, man. But anyway, log and load, dude. Log and load. Let us know how. Well, let's talk about Family Mastermind next week. See how that goes for you.
Definitely. But no, this is good. This is good chat. It's like, we got to talk about it because it affects everything.
It does, man. Like those policies, and she has other policies. I don't really want to we can do it on another episode. The first-time home buyer, all these things, building 3 million houses, and like a lot of stuff around it. Whether it'll actually happen, I don't think they will. I don't know if I was clear, but I definitely don't think they will ban corporate house buying.
No way. That'd be challenging. Any of this stuff.
I think California might. Oh, wait, bro. Did you see Newsom just signed a bill that makes, like, I don't know how to say this properly, but basically says if you're being mean, it's against the law online. So I guess Elon made some, like, it's like did a parody against Newsom. He actually got up on stage, like he signed a bill and he says, I don't know if Mr. Musk understands this, but like memes and parody are now illegal in the state of California. And he signed a bill, and he's considering seeking legal action against him because and I'm like, bro got his feelings hurt and signed a bill making it illegal that you can't make fun of him on the internet.
That's scary.
So you should look into that, dude.
Yeah, send me those things. I want to see the golf cart and that's scary though. Yeah, send it to me. You
want to see it?
Sure.
I'll slag it over to you, dude. It's just I gotta find that Gavin Newsom speech when he got up there, and I was just like, this dude, I would have loved to have known him in high school. He must have been so bullied that he has this Napoleon complex right now. Like, he's fucking power tripping, dude.
That's freaking scary. Well, yeah, send it to me. I'll take a look. But thank you guys for tuning in. Good to be back on a live stream, and we'll catch you guys next week.
Lock